Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and we are back and alive after our little sabbatical of a week. If you haven't been, if you've just now tuning in for the first time, then you would have no idea. But yes, we took a break. It's usually like our annual summer, like usually it's like 1 week where we don't do anything and talk about anything. But we figured, we got to come back this week, Josh, because football's right around the corner. We got to cover some things. But before that, we have to ask Josh. I think everyone's wanting to know, how was your vacation? I mean, you're basically a normal human right now. You're not a nocturnal animal.
Yeah, I was the most normal I've ever been, having 16 days off of work to just live on day shift, get some things done at my new house, and just go on a vacation again. Watch some baseball, a lot of that. Visit two MLB parks, knocked out Camden Yards, knocked out Nationals Park, watched the Richmond Flying Squirrels, double A ball in between there. Was in New York visiting with my family. My brother and his wife were renewing their vows out there, so I had a blast over there. So it was a fun week to get out on the road, get some miles in, get some ball in, and now we're back and we're actually back to work tonight on the night shift. So getting back on that nocturnal clock again. But I gotta tell you something, Ben. I think that I have some kind of crazy connection to Kyle Schwarber because I've seen him play twice in the last 2 years. Three homer game last year against Toronto. Homers again this time against the Nationals. Bryce Harper follows up with a back-to-back homer. He, of course, was one of those big guys that played a part into the Cleveland Indians losing that 2016 World Series. There's just something about me and Schwarber, I think. Every time I see
In
him
in
play,
Ohio,
something big happens.
in Ohio boy, in
He
Ohio
is an
boy.
Ohio boy.
So
He is an
so
Ohio
uh,
boy.
might want to play for the Reds. He says. So I'm just saying. Of course, another 200 hitter that hits for the Reds and then hits home runs.
Yeah, but you
Um,
see that 45 home runs he's got this year. You see that 900 plus OPS he's got. He does
oh, I
more than
know.
just get on base.
Oh, I know. I mean, I'm just. It's more of a thing that it would happen if he went to the Reds. But yeah. So you did that, right? You were traveling. I was
Yeah,
traveling too, right? I was coming back from the US, and
right.
normally that's an 18-hour journey. It's usually, a couple stops, usually once in the States, once in Europe, and then you're home, Simple. We were supposed to leave about a week ago, which was about would have been Tuesday, and we did not get back till Friday morning at like 2 a.m. was like when I finally got into the apartment. And that is called planes and weather and cancellations and people being stupid. No, generally it was just we had flights canceled, which then obviously Josh from sometimes flying is like once one thing happens, it just feels like it's just a snowball, right? Like
Sets off a
everything's
chain
yeah.
reaction, dude. Yeah,
So
you're
those
you're
canceled. We
screwed.
so it's funny because if you do know, I live not too far from Columbus, so my parents came back, picked us up, we went home, and then we next morning, we got a flight to Houston, by the way. So going from Columbus to Houston, which is like a 2 hour flight in and of itself. Then we go from Houston, we fly to Munich, but our flight was late from Houston, which means obviously we get to Munich, we're not really going to make it in time. There's issues with our boarding pass. So then we stayed 10 hours in Munich. Yeah, 10 hours in an airport. I feel like Terminal. If you guys have ever seen the movie Terminal, if you haven't, it's a great movie. The movie Terminal. And then, yeah, then we stayed there for like 10 hours. Then we got the flight home and we were there at 2 a.m. And it was, yeah, jet lag was a little harder this time to get over with all the travel and stuff.
No
You
doubt,
know,
dude.
it's just the worst.
Yeah.
Like, I just wish there was like a way to just like get real quick, but how is there,
Yeah.
but anyways, Josh, we've talked about, I said it earlier at the beginning of the show. I said we have just a few days before college football in Ohio, before high school football kicks off. I mean, it's literally
Yeah.
this week, which is wild to think about. That's also what was hitting me is like it's almost September, which is just like what?
Hmm.
But yeah, football's here, but we haven't covered everything. We promised we'd go through all the football divisions and conferences and college and divisions and NFL. And Josh, we're missing two. We're missing the final two. Tell us what we're going to do and what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, like Ben said, we got high school football in Ohio starting this Friday. My alma mater, Bellevue Redmond, taking on the Clyde Flyers. We got college football week 0 going on. Iowa State and Kansas State will be kicking it off in Dublin. Maybe Ben will make the 12-hour train ride out there. I don't
No.
know how far away it is for you
I
guys,
am done
but
with flying. I'm done with flying. I'm done with trains. I just stay where I'm at.
just want to stay where you're at for a little while. Okay. Well,
Turn on
yeah,
YouTube.
all that will be happening. So we are
Yeah.
just about underway. Football, though, we got to wrap up the NFL previews with the
Yeah.
NFC East and West divisions today. Divisions that I think potentially could be the most competitive
Yeah.
or have potential to be some of the most competitive in the whole entire league. We'll be kicking it off with the NFC East today. That's, of course, the Eagles, Commies, Giants, Cowboys.
I think I changed
A
that
lot of,
name. I gotta change that name so bad. It's
yeah,
just so bad.
we would love a name change, but I'm gonna go ahead and embrace it, have some fun with it. But
It's just funny
couple
that
of
it's in DC, which just makes it even more funny.
That's why it
So
was so much better. Yeah, it's like, oh, you know they're going to shorten this to the commies, and who's in DC? Oh
so
yeah, all
great.
the commies in the United States that work for us. Okay. So Ben, the last 4 years of this division, the title has gone alternating between the Cowboys and the Eagles. We know, of course, last year it was the Eagles. They're fresh off that Super Bowl win. They are the second heaviest division favorite in the whole league, just next to the Buffalo Bills. And if the Eagles can repeat, it'll be the first time any team has repeated as champs of this division since 2004. So, lot riding on the line here for the Eagles. However, I don't think they're going to win the division this year.
Hmm.
Maybe one of my other bold takes that you guys have gotten to hear very few of. I usually am not confident as Ben on some of these crazy predictions, but I actually think Washington's going to come out and win this division. I'm just going to go ahead and say that, let it settle in, let Ben gather his thoughts, see if he's blown away, or maybe we'll find out that he agrees with me.
Oh, I don't agree with you. Like whatsoever. I
Okay.
the Eagles are the best team in the NFL, like hands down. I look at this team. I look at the like. Look, there's nothing against the Redskins. I'm going to call them Redskins. I'm sorry. Nothing
We can
against the
call them Redskins. I
yeah.
like that name.
Nothing against Washington, but it's just like I I don't know. It just kind of like it was a 1 year out of the blue, and like I've just seen it too many times in football. If unless I see like back to back years of really good success, it's hard for me to go with. Like at least with the Eagles, we've seen the success build and build and build. And yeah, like you were talking about how the Cowboys and the Eagles have alternated. Yeah, but we also remember the Cowboys have done nothing in the playoffs. So that's just not even that's a whole other story. But I look I like the bold prediction. Like again, if there's a team to put your money on, I would say it's either Washington or it's Detroit to do something. I just think those two teams have something to do in the NFC. I just think right now, I think looking at this, the Eagles offense, which by the way just got better because they just added freaking what's his name from Houston. Oh, they got him. He's played at Alabama. I can't think of his name. It's blanking me. There was just a trade. I got to look it up.
All right.
Uh, Eagles trade. Eagles trade. They just got him, which I thought was a very interesting trade. Oh yeah, they got Mechie. They got Mechie
Oh yeah,
from
John
Houston.
Mechie. Yep, he
Yeah.
just got sent over there.
So for me, I like. Do you add him? Which again, he hasn't been great, but it's like that's just another weapon. Then I look at the defense, which by the way, looking at the Eagles defense, just Georgia, basically what it is. But look, the Eagles defense is really good. Again, I love what Washington did last year, and I think they're going to be just as good. Like I think they're going to be up there at the end of the year, where you're looking at them at like I'd say 11-6, maybe 12-5, probably 11-6 is where I'm thinking they're going to be. But I don't think they have the fire. At least from what I've watched, just by seeing the moves that have been made. Again, preseason is preseason, so I'm not really judging that. But I like what the Eagles are doing. I like how the Eagles are run. That's the first thing. I just love how they're run as an organization right now. And again, Washington's getting there. I'm not saying they're not there, but they're getting there. I just think that the Eagles are a little bit step ahead right now in that case.
Yeah, and I'll clarify. I don't think the Eagles are necessarily going anywhere as far as contention and all that goes. I got them as a close second right here, but let me go ahead and make the case, I guess, against the Eagles. Bryce Palm, if you're listening, I apologize if any of tears are shed or any angry comments form in your head over this. But I think you'll agree with me, both of you actually, on a few of these points. So the Eagles last year, of course, Super Bowl champs. Saquon Barkley rushed for over 2,000 yards. It's such an incredible move that they make, but he had 436 carries in the 20 games they played. What a
Mhm.
workhorse, first off, but I would expect a little dip in production, or at least less usage this year. He's not going to be probably as involved in
Yeah.
this offense. And just to put that in context, that is tied for the heaviest workload since 2014 DeMarco Murray. So it's been a little while since somebody's been involved that much, and I don't think Saquon Barkley's necessarily going to go anywhere. He's on the cover of Madden. I don't know if the curse is still a thing with that game,
Oh, it
but
is. It's 100% still a curse. Yeah.
I'd still expect a little dip in production from Saquon. I just don't think he's going to repeat as a 2,000-yard rusher. The secondary also is going to lack depth this year, depending on if some guys step up. They traded away C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Darius Slay was cut. You still got Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, who were really great at
Really
last season
good.
for them, really good. But if you want that depth, you're going to be looking at Keely Ringo to be stepping up this year. And we know he can. He's one of those Georgia guys that seem to do really well. We'll see if he's cut out for that. Back to the offense, though. Kellen Moore, of course, he's gone. He's not going to be calling plays anymore. He's coaching the Saints now. So you got Kevin Patullo, who's filling in as a first-time play caller. What kind of a system and scheme is he going to bring to the table? And then flip-flopping back to the defense. A little bit of the pass rush is going to be gone because Josh Sweat ended up signing with the Cardinals. We'll talk about that move later in the NFC West discussion. Brandon Graham retires. They do hold on to Zach Bond, though, who was one of the leaders of that defense last year. And the schedule, Ben, is significantly harder than it was last year. They got to go to Kansas City, to Tampa Bay, to Green Bay, to Buffalo, and to the Chargers. They also got Detroit, the Rams, and the Broncos coming into town. It would shock me if they were a 12, 13 game winner and were able to repeat as the division, all of those things considered.
No, no, no. I mean, I agree with some of the point. I think I, I guess for me, it's not necessarily what maybe Eagles are lacking, or maybe yeah, the dip in production that you might see from him. To me, it's more of the Washington factor. I'm struggling to see Daniels. I'm not saying it's going to be like a real big drop, but it could be like a CJ Stroud drop. Or again, remember with CJ Stroud, it wasn't like he was bad. It just there wasn't as much consistency, and I was getting on him last year and in some of our shows where I was just like, look, this guy has every tool, and he shows it at times. But then there was this weird second year, teams are figuring him out. So I'm interested to see how that goes, and it's also just look the McLaurin thing, like what's going on with this, and so these other things that are happening. It's more of the what ifs. Now again, that schedule is hard, and you have to go to Green Bay. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter what time of year in Green Bay. Green Bay is just a pain to go play in. It's real grass, and when I mean real grass, I mean that has thick mud, man. Like if you ever seen them play games there, it is there's some thick mud coming off of those cleats. Um, but again, I think I the first year the I will say the first year play caller doesn't bother me because I think you as a play caller and someone who is a play caller, I see what works and what has worked in the previous year, and you try to adapt from that, right? You use what has worked, and then maybe you add your own things, which is what I do, right? Like I add my own little things that I like to add, but at the end of the day, I still gravitate towards what has worked for them in the past. So again, that doesn't worry me as much. And also, you still have Nick Sirianni, who I think is a really good head coach, and you have a GM who knows what he's doing over there. So for me, I think the Eagles just have that little half step above where Washington, but I think it's going to be a really, really fun race.
Yeah, I mean, these are just all, I guess, unknowns right now. We don't
Yeah,
know if Ringo's going to step up into a bigger role. We don't know if Patullo is going to call a really good game. But I guess if you want to look at what is still there, you still got Saquon. It may not be the Saquon of 2024,
yeah.
but you still got him there. You still got Jalen Hurts throwing to Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, and AJ Brown over there. So there's still a lot to like about the Eagles. I guess I'll go into why I like Washington. And like you were saying, Washington, when I was thinking about this, there's potential for it to kind of be a letdown like how the Houston Texans were. We thought that they made a lot of moves. CJ Stroud going to year two after the rookie of the year finish, and you go out and get Stephon Diggs and you go get Joe Mixon, you get these guys to help him out, and there just ends up being a lot of injuries. And I thought they did a really good job of getting some guys. They go out and get Laramie Tunzel, they draft Josh Connerly to boost that offensive line, right? They go out and make the move for Debo Samuel, except he hasn't had a fully healthy season in like 3 years. So that could maybe be, I guess, the Stephon Diggs move right there. And then you mentioned the Terry McLaurin trade request. We don't know what's going to happen over there, if they're going to work a deal out or if he's going to come back and play. But the Marshawn Lattimore move I thought was nice. And then the defense last year was just really not great at stopping the run. They allowed 4.8 yards a carry. That was third most out of anybody. They go out and make the move to get Darren Payne. Or no, they don't make that move. They go out and get Bobby Wagner to help clog up at the linebacker spot right there. They're hoping Darren Payne can return to Pro Bowl form there at defensive tackle. The schedule last year was easier. This year it's not as hard as Phillies, but they still are going to Green Bay also. They got to go to the Chargers and the Chiefs. They got the Lions and the Broncos coming. And then fringe playoff teams, Falcons, Dolphins, Seahawks are also on the schedule. So there is potential for this to, I guess, be somewhat of a letdown, like how Houston Texans season last year was a letdown
Hmm.
to us. But I see the blueprint right here. I see a lot of potential for everything to go right for Jaden to step up as a leader who didn't have as much last year as he's going to have this year, do really well, lead this team from a 4-13 finish the year before to 12-5, win two playoff games, and are just one game away from the Super Bowl. I just like a lot of what Washington did, and I see them being better.
Yeah, no, I think Washington. I think Washington's gonna. They're gonna have a good year. I think either way. It's the same with Texans. Like I think Texans had a decent year. It wasn't a great year, but it was a good year. The second year was Stroud. So again, what does Daniels do? Does he show up? Does he beat that kind of sophomore slump? And I think that's gonna be the biggest question. But again, I think it's going to be up to these two teams. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be in this region. And actually, I coach on the national team with he's a guy, he's from California, but he's a big Cowboys fan. And we talked about this, and actually we talked about this kind of conversation this past weekend during the tryouts. And he just said, he goes, look, he goes, it's a mess. That's all he could describe Cowboys. And I think when Denzel Washington comes out and says that he thinks that Jerry Jones is just truly ruining Cowboy football, that's when you start wondering. Like if you're one of your biggest celebrity fans is even just like, like once LeBron comes out and says something, we both know that no, it must be real
Mhm.
at that point. But no, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But what are your thoughts on the Cowboys? I know we both kind of have the same two teams at the top,
Yeah,
but I don't see the Cowboys winning more than like 8 or 9 games. And I know that sounds crazy, but like, who's their running back? Who's playing
yeah,
offensive line? Who's defensive backs? They're and with Parsons, like, Jerry Jones is so stuck on himself that everything else is clueless on this team. I can't find anything on this team that's got an identity.
yeah. There's like we were just talking about some of those questions and the unknowns with Washington and with Philly. Dallas has quite a bit of them himself, and you mentioned running back. So they were 27th in rushing yards last year with Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle running back there. And this year we don't really have much better. We got a committee of Javonte Williams, who's had some flashes early in his
But
career,
it's
but
been
he's also
hurt.
had some injuries and stuff. You got Miles Sanders, who I'd say is on his last legs, just trying to survive in the NFL. And you got rookie Jaden Blue, who had some nice plays at Texas, but again, still a later pick that you're not really banking on being very involved this
And a
year.
5'6" Vaughn.
Deuce Vaughn. So they didn't run the ball too well, and they also didn't do a good job stopping the run last year. They were 29th in
And you lose
rush yards
Parsons.
allowed. Yeah. So, and then you got to wonder if Micah Parsons is going to be back. Matt Eberflus, who was the coach of the Bears, is calling the defense this year. That's a move that I do like, and that could maybe lead to some change schematically that could help things out. I guess offensively, things to like. You still got Dak, you still got CeeDee Lamb, you still got Ferguson at tight end. You go out and make the move for Pickens, which we'll find out if that was a good or a bad idea. The other thing that's a big question mark is Brian Schottenheimer. Never been a head coach before. He's been moving his way up in the Dallas coaching staff. He was a analyst a few years ago, and then he was the offensive coordinator the last 2 years, and now he's promoted to head coach this year. We'll
Is
see
he
how
is
that
he a
move
yes
shakes up.
man? That's gonna be the biggest question. Is he a yes man? Because if
Is
he's
he
a
the
Jerry,
yes man that
is
Jerry
he?
wants? Because yeah, if
That's
you
the
are a
annoying
yes
thing.
man, you can stick around a long time like Jason
Yeah.
Garrett did.
Well, it's like what like we were talking about at the national training camp. It's like we talked about like when was the last coach at Dallas a true like on his own thinker? Like it wasn't Jason Garrett. It wasn't this past head coach. What's his name from? coach of Green Bay. He was a yes
Mike
man.
McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy was a yes man. He didn't. There was no one challenging this authority of like this is the way we run a football team. I think the last one was maybe Tom Landry, maybe Jimmy Johnson was the last
Bill
time we saw.
Parcells.
Maybe though, right? Like once Jerry got control, it seems like it's been like, look, I'm paying your check, so you got to say yes to me. And I think the only way this is how you fix the Cowboys, Josh. Simple.
All right, tell me.
Whenever Jerry passes away, not I hope it's not soon. I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying that like I'm just saying whenever Jerry has to give up control, whatever circumstance, is going to be the only time I see the Cowboys actually making it far in the playoffs and actually maybe winning a Super Bowl. And I know that sounds crazy, but they've had so much more talent than they have this year. In like
Yeah.
the last 10 years, they've had so much talent and yet they can't do anything with it because they don't know how to step out of that box of like, hey, let's do something different. They don't want to do something different. I feel like they're okay with making the billions of dollars he's making a year, and it's okay if he doesn't have to worry about the little things.
2 seasons ago when they won this division and they came in, I think, as the 2 seed and then lost to Green Bay in that wild card round, letting the 7 seed get their first win. I was just like, you got to be kidding me, man. And I remember talking about it on the podcast that I feel really good about Dallas, even though they're not in the playoffs or they don't really do well in the playoffs, that this team just has way too much talent, was just too good in the regular season to ignore. And they go and lay an egg against Jordan Love and those boys in Green Bay. But schedule has been something we've talked about with Washington and Philly so far. I guess if you want to add to the Dallas case for why they can maybe be a sleeper finish, the schedule is pretty favorable for them, Ben. They got the Bears, the
The
Jets, the
Bears.
Panthers, the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Vikings, and then you got the Giants, of course, in the division twice, which is nice. And then the hard games are pretty much all at home. You get to play, let me pull it up real quick. It was Green Bay is going to be on their home field. The Chiefs will be on their home field. The Chargers will be on their home field. And then they go to Denver. That'll be tough. They go to Detroit. That's at least in a dome. So there's yeah, not too much much that could trip them up here outside of the division. Of course, the Washington and Philly games are going to be hard in themselves. You really hope you don't go 0 for 4 in those ones, but comparatively to everybody else that we've talked about so far, Cowboys got the more favorable schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I still think they're going to choke some of these games, man. It's just like that's one thing that Stephen A. Smith can agree on is whenever he sends those videos where he's laughing, I think those are just absolutely
Yeah,
hysterical. Like everyone is smiling in America. I believe they're called America's team not because everyone likes them, because it's just
everybody
fun when
loves
they
to hate them.
lose.
We all
Like,
unite in hatred
yes,
for the Dallas Cowboys.
yes. So, and then there's what's left is what I like to
What is
say.
left is the Giants, and I
They're
think even
gonna be
Giants fans
so
will tell
bad,
you
dude.
this is a year of trying to figure things out and
They're gonna
see
be
what
so
happens.
bad, dude. They're gonna be so bad,
Who's going to be playing quarterback for them, Ben? Is it
dude.
going to be
I don't
Russell
know.
Wilson,
I
Jameis
don't
Winston,
know,
Jackson Dart, or Tommy DeVito?
dude.
I have an idea.
I'm going Tommy DeVito. No, I'm kidding. Um, I think it's gonna be one of those things where they play Russ for like the first 6 weeks, and then they're like, "All right, we've lost 4 out of 6 games. Here you go, Jackson. Take it over." I think Jameis is there for the memes. I think Russ is there for like, oh, we brought a veteran in, but then truly in their hearts, they really want to play Jackson Dart, so they're just gonna play him anyways. So I think that's what's gonna end up happening, to be honest.
Yeah, it's in the second half of this season, the Giants got Dallas, the Raiders, the Vikings, the Patriots, and the Bears. I think that could be like an easy six-ish game stretch where you bring in Jackson Dart, maybe he's ready by this point, and you just go with Russell Wilson for the first half of the season. Let Jackson, watch and learn. You don't have to throw him in right away. There's not any expectations for this team to make the playoffs or finish really any higher than third in the division probably. So just go ahead and let Russ, I guess, be the veteran, show the rookie how to do it, and then in the second half of the season, see what he's been able to pick up and what you got there, is what my
Yeah,
guess would be.
no, yeah, and talk about a veteran room. You got Tommy DeVito. You got, jeez, and you got freaking Russ, and you got. It's just such a
Bringing
weird.
in both Winston and Russ was
No,
interesting, I
but just
thought.
imagine having Winston, Russ, and DeVito in your QB locker room. Like you're just walking in the first time you meet them. It's just like the three most different personalities of all time. Because completely, dude from like New York City, you got a dude who's just like preacher. He's just like a preaching up there, and then you got Russ, who's just like, look, I'm cool, I'm rich. That's just kind of the way it
Look, I'm
is.
cool, I'm rich.
It's pretty much the way it is.
Yeah. Offensive line health is another thing I noted for the Giants. Andrew Thomas, the last time he was fully healthy in his season was the 2022 season where they surprisingly made the playoffs. They are 3-15 in their last 18 games without him. So very valuable left tackle to have. But yeah, I think even if they have a healthy Andrew Thomas, I don't think that's the difference between them finishing
Nope.
first and last either. There's just going to be
No.
some work to do in New
And they
York over
still
there.
they still have Dumball leading their head coaching as a head
Brian
coach.
Daboll still
So
leading the way. You still got Malik Neighbors, will be exciting. They kept Slayton, I think, to be opposite him at receiver. They added Jevin Holland to the secondary.
it's
So
just still it's gonna be
yeah,
painful to
it's a
watch.
wait and see. Yeah, it's not going to be a fun season this year, but hope is coming, I guess, in the future, especially if Dart ends up hitting, that pick ends up hitting.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But now, Josh, there's only one division left. Out of all the divisions we've covered over the past, 8 weeks or whatever
Man,
it's been,
yeah.
not 8 weeks, about 6 weeks now. So who is it? If maybe if they haven't been keeping track, maybe they just forgot.
NFC West. And I think you could sell me on almost any team winning this division.
I
I
will be
think that's
honest.
how
I
I
flipped a
think that's
coin.
how
I
hard it
flipped a
is.
coin. So
I think that's how hard it is to predict first, second, third, and fourth here. It seems like every division we've done, there's been like a clear, okay, two-horse race here, or a clear cut, first seed, a
yeah,
clear cut last place team in all of these. But over here, I mean, I would guess most people are probably going to guess the Cardinals are going to finish last, but they had a really good offseason, Ben, and maybe it's one of those divisions too where it's like everybody finishes over 500, and then you got like the one that finishes
I I think
8 and 9
I think
at last.
it's becoming like the new NFC South. It's just going to be like one of those either it's going to be really ugly like 10 wins you the division, or it's going to be like one really good team and the rest are bad.
I mean, the
So,
NFC West for a while has been a pretty competitive
yeah.
division, honestly. We've just had some stuff go on where it's like, okay, the Rams, got their post Super Bowl, they were having some guys retire, they were having some injuries, they were having to reset, but they're back to contention. The Cardinals dealing with Kyler Murray's absence and maybe some of his immaturity at times, not very good defense.
Yeah.
San Francisco, just a couple seasons, it's like they couldn't stay healthy for the life of them. But if all of them end up playing the way that I think they can, it really could be like, okay, I don't know who's going to win this division, but I just feel a connection to the San Francisco 49ers who have won this division 3 of the last 4 years, and I'm going to lean on them by default. But they had a lot of injuries last year, like I said. They finished 6-11 last year, which was last place in this division. You lose Travarius Ward and Dre Greenlaw from that defense. But you bring back Robert Salah to call the defense, and we know how good he was with these guys
Yeah.
just a few years ago before he took that Jets head coaching job.
Probably should have
Uh,
stayed.
yeah, they're going to need it because they were 29th in points allowed. And from week 9 to 18, I found out they only forced 2 turnovers. So what do? They go ahead in the draft and make their first 5 picks all defensive guys, including Michael Williams, defensive lineman from Georgia. We know that those guys do really well with producing the defenders. Now let's go over to the offensive side. Who's Brock Purdy, who they just gave this huge extension, going to be throwing to? Because you don't have Deebo Samuel anymore. You got Brandon Ayuk battling back from an injury. Demarcus Robinson could be facing a suspension from a DUI. Jawan Jennings is requesting a trade or trying to get a contract extension right now, even though he's only a wide receiver 4, which is crazy. Ricky Pearsall, first round pick last year, he's going to have to step up. So, oh, and then the other thing to note with Ayuk, he played 7 games last year, 0 touchdowns. So sick extension, bro. Way to earn your pay there. But yeah, all that to say, I'm doing a really great job selling San Francisco for first place right now,
Yeah,
aren't I?
real doing a great job there, bud.
Yeah. Well, let me go ahead and say that Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey, 2 huge impact guys, will be back this year. And then, unlike last year, they got the easiest schedule actually in the NFL as far as like last year's records go. They get the Panthers on here. They get the Cardinals, of course, in division twice. They get the Browns, the Titans, the Colts, the Bears, and the Seahawks twice. It shakes up very well in their favor, even if they are only a shell of the 49er teams of old, of the Super Bowl team that was, just here 2 years ago. I think that they got enough guys that will be coming back, recovering, I mean, to be injury prone 2 years in a row would be insane to me. I'm not going to bank on that happening. With the way easier schedule now, and then Brock Purdy continuing to take those steps forward, I like San Francisco, and I will believe in them. But like I said, you could convince me on the Rams, on the Seahawks, probably, on even the Cardinals, honestly, winning
Yeah,
this division.
I'm leaning more towards Seahawks finish fourth. Um, I'm just gonna say that now. With the 49, dude, I I flipped a coin to be honest with you. And I went with the 49ers as well. I know you were thinking I was going somewhere different.
I
Um,
did.
no, the reason was kind of what you said. I just think that they have at least all the pieces there. Now, will they stay healthy? That's going to be the biggest question. Like I think Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, is like if not a top five player, maybe even top three. He's at least top 10.
Oh yeah.
But the problem is that it's when he's healthy, and that's the problem. And again, Trent Williams, one of the best offensive linemen we've had in our generation since we've been watching football. Um, Again, Brock Purdy, I've always just been like, but look, you win games in this division. I think again the easy schedule, but also I just think the Seahawks are definitely down. I think they're going to finish last. I think they win like 5 games. I like the Cardinals a lot. I like what they did in the draft. I love what they have with Marvin Harrison. Going to have, I think, a better second year. Which, by the way, they said he had a down first year. They compared him to like Hall of Famers. He has like the exact same numbers as many Hall of Famers. So he's going to be fine. He also bulked up. I don't know if you saw, he gained like 10,
He
15
had a really
pounds.
good weight room.
Yeah. So then you add him, you
He
have
hit
Kyler
that
Murray,
hard.
who's going to be healthy, and back and ready to go. Um, and then then I look at the Rams, and I just think the Rams. I think defensively, I'm interested to see what they're going to do. I think offensively, you kind of know what you're going to get with the Rams. Nothing's really changed over the last 8, 9 years, but I think again, defensively is going to be the question. I think, what are you going to do? There's no more Cooper Cup offensively. Obviously, you have Nakua, but I'm interested to see how that goes. I kind of have it listed as 49ers finish 11 and I said 11-6. You have like the Rams finishing, I think, like a 10-7. I think you have Cardinals finishing like 9-8, 10-7. And then I think you have like the Seahawks finishing like 6-11 or whatever.
Hmm.
That's kind of like where I see it kind of playing out.
All right, why don't we go ahead and talk Rams then? Because I did go with them second. That's an area that we will agree on. This has been a team that's been second half the
Yeah.
last few years. Last year they started off 1-4 and then of course finished 10-7. They came in hot. I thought they might have a shot to take down the Eagles. I think I actually picked them to beat the Eagles in the playoffs last year. But going back to what we said about Saquon Barkley before and just how good of a season he had last year, the Eagles, Barkley, Hurts, all those guys ran for nearly 600 yards on these guys in the 2 games they faced last year. They just could not stop the
Wild.
run, the Rams. And so Poona Ford is coming in at defensive tackle, and they're hopefully going to be able to clog those holes up in the middle a little bit with him. They don't have Cooper Kupp anymore, of course, but Jordan Whittington did show some promise at the end of last season in the games he was playing, hopefully lining up outside or opposite of Puka Nacua. And you brought in Devontae Adams, who hopefully can, you can just squeeze the last little juice out of his career that he might have over there. I think they extended Kyron Williams, which is a really good move. Pairing him up with Blake Corum in the backfield should be another solid run game. Matthew Stafford's still one of the toughest guys I think in this league at quarterback. You get to open up with the Texans, the Titans, the Eagles, the Colts, the Niners, and the Ravens. So hopefully you don't end up with another cold start. There are some tough games and there are some easy ones though, but just don't put yourself in such a hole because in this division, I don't know if you're going to be able to come back if you start off, again like 2-4, 1-5, something like that. It's going to be tough, but
Oh no,
I
I
think the I
agree.
think the Rams, like we were just saying with the Cardinals, I like what they did in the offseason a lot.
No, it's actually funny. I was thinking about this. Like, this is one of those divisions where I think if you start off, let's say like 1-3 or 1-4 or 2-5, that could cost you. Like, I really think that's kind of the way this division is going to run because I think there's a lot of uncertainty with these teams, but I think a lot of these teams I think are like kind of hot streak teams. When they get going, they're going to get going. And I think Nakua is going to have a big year. I think also you're going to see I think the Rams find a way to win some games that maybe people didn't see them winning, and I think they're going to lose some games that maybe they shouldn't lose. That's kind of how I see their season going.
Yeah, and I'm with you on the Seahawks finishing last, so we can go ahead and talk Cardinals now for third place. They prioritize defense,
Yeah,
and they
a
really
lot.
lacked. Yeah, and they lacked a pass rush big time last year. We talked about that needing to be something that they do either in the draft or the offseason. So what do? They go out and sign Josh Sweat. They get Dalvin Tomlinson. They get Calais Campbell, all to fill in on the defensive line over there. In the draft, they go get Walter Nolan and Will Johnson. Kyler Murray should be a little more available in the run game. We know how much damage he can do with his legs, and last year he just didn't get to do a whole lot of that because he was still recovering from a leg injury or a knee injury. I can't remember which one it was, but should be able to make a little bit more plays with his legs or buy a little bit more time over there. And we're getting to Marvin Harrison now. So for a fourth overall pick, Ben, he had fewer than 50 yards in 10 games last year. I think he only topped 100 twice. You'd like to see a little bit better than that. But when you compare him to other, Hall of Famers, not everybody's, lightning in a bottle or absolute flash their first year in the NFL. It's really hard. It's hard to adjust. And like I was just saying, Kyler wasn't exactly Kyler last year either. But they also extended tight end Trey McBride. They went out and got Zay Jones. And they do really have potential to start off hot with the starts of their schedule they got. They'll be facing the Saints, the Panthers. They got a tough one with the Niners, of course. They got the Seahawks, then the Titans, then the Colts. They could start off with being first place in this division in the first half of the season, but it gets tough at the end. They got to play Tampa and the Rams twice. They got the Texans, the Falcons, and the Bengals. So that's one where it's like, okay, if you got maybe a two-game lead right here, that this is where it could go away. It could slip from their fingers with how this schedule shakes up at the end with that hard stretch at the end. But I do like what they did in the offseason. I think it's going to fix some of the deficiencies that they had last year. I think Kyler will take another step forward this year, and I think Marvin's going to take another step forward this year too.
Well, I don't. I think I go back to that. I think Kyler was himself, and also like outside of McBride, Harrison was pretty much doubled a lot, or they were at least shaded to him. So I think people don't realize like that is a hard thing to kind of you have to kind of figure out spacing and things. And again, some guys just differently, and some guys run better teams, some guys run different situations with better quarterbacks or whatever it might be. But again, I agree with everything point you said. I think they aimed at the defense, they got that I think figured out, and now I think you can start putting everything together.
Yes, so without further ado, that leaves us to the Seahawks, and they had some decent moves, I guess, in the offseason, but they also probably sound better in name than they do in production. Like they go out and get Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp. I think those are two really big moves that, you definitely go out
Yeah.
and do if you're them. But Darnold last year at times looked like an MVP candidate. Then at the end of the season, when he was getting pressure in those last two games, he got
Yep.
sacked 11 times, only completed 58% of his passes. Probably lost a lot of money from those games because that he really hasn't had the continued I guess years of production. That was more of like his first breakout season, honestly. Uh, and then going to Cooper Kupp, yeah, we know he had 1,900 yards just a few years ago, but in his last three seasons since, he's played 9 games, 12 games, and 12 games. And he's 32 years old right now, so it's not like he's getting any younger or any healthier. But you do have to go out and make a move like that, especially when DK Metcalf, you end up trading him to Pittsburgh. Tyler Lockett goes to Tennessee. You need somebody to be opposite Jackson Smith and Jigba to take some pressure off so he doesn't just get doubled up and then that's the end of it. Um, Helping the offensive line hopefully give Darnold a little bit more time than what Minnesota's offensive line was last year. They go out and draft Gray Zabel early in the draft. You're going to have Kenneth Walker back fully healthy, a team up with Charbonnet in the backfield. I think that's a solid running back duo there. And then the defense is going to have to continue momentum from last year. Schedule wise, this shakes up pretty nice. You get the Saints, the Jags, the Titans, the Vikings, the Colts, and the Panthers. Uh, you host Tampa Bay and the Texans. Those are hard ones on your home field, and then the hard ones on the road. You're going to Pittsburgh, you're going to Washington, you're going to Atlanta. So a favorable schedule right there. I just don't know if they have the personnel to capitalize on that schedule the way that like the 49ers do.
Yeah, I think it's not even the schedule. I'm not sold on Darnold, and I think I said this last year. Like we kind, and I think you mentioned at the end of last season, like how he just started struggling. You mentioned it in this right here, and like I think you said something like, "Well, there goes the money" or something like that. I think it was some comment you said like there's some of that money is starting to fade because I think if you look at that season last year, he really wasn't getting pressured until the last, what, 5 games. You started seeing more pressures
Yeah,
happening. And I think what we've always known about Darnold is we saw him against Ohio State back in that not Rose Bowl, I think it was the Outback Bowl years ago.
it was
When
one of
Ohio
those
State,
big bulls. Yeah,
yeah, when Ohio State got to him, what happened? He struggled. And I think that's always been Darnold's kind of downfall. And I think teams are going to be like, look, we'll take we'll take you beating us if you can beat us, but we're going to try to get pressure on you. And I think that's where it's going to be a struggle. And I think also I'm not sold defensively that they're going to have it all figured out. And I think we'll see what they do, how they change things. But again, I think it's going to be a long road ahead.
yeah, yeah. We'll see. Again, this division, it's a lot, going to be a lot of fun, I think. But
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a blast. I
yeah,
mean, look, all these divisions are gonna be fun in some form or fashion. So
and they're probably not going to finish anywhere close to what we predicted.
oh no, of course
Who's going
not.
to be that Washington team last year that
Oh,
was 4 and
it's
13 and then breaks out into
yep,
12 and 5?
exactly. That's the way it always happens.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah,
one other football
yeah.
topic that we have to talk about a little bit. It's a little late now, but we need comments from Ben on the Michigan dropping of the hammer
Oh
from the
yeah, yeah,
NCAA.
yeah, yeah. I guess that was when you were on vacation, so I
It
really didn't.
happened when I was on
Yeah,
vacation, yes.
I
Ben's
actually
dad has
adjusted what I
probably
came back.
been the loudest voice in my ear that the hammer's coming. Michigan's going to be, death penalty. They're totally going to get screwed. And I
Yeah,
just have never seen it that way.
I,
And I know that when everyone in Ohio State fandom in Columbus saw what happened to Michigan, everybody wants to point to 2011 when Ohio State got the hammered on them for seemingly way less. But I got my comments and thoughts on it. I've always kind of shared. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that what everybody thinks happened really happened. There wasn't a whole lot of evidence as to why this or investigation was going on for as long as it was because they were trying to find something. They just couldn't ultimately prove anything. And then with the way that TV deals work now, uh, with Fox and everybody paying the Big Ten all this money, it's like that's going to hurt their TV deal if one of the bigger brands just now is playing less important games or games that don't even matter anymore. That's going to hurt that
mhm.
deal. So there's just a lot of it's a whole different world of NCAA football than it was when Ohio State got their punishment handed down to them. But bottom line, I just didn't think that Michigan did everything that everyone was alleging that they did. But yeah, Ben, I don't think that you really thought that they were going to get like any kind of death penalty punishment either. But I think you were expecting a little bit more than what they ended up getting.
I, how do I put this? I think a lot of people are surprised. I mean, there's even national media people that I think are surprised. I mean, there was even people that were like that I follow like just generally that are not Ohio State associated that were kind of like, really? Because I think I mean, it's like what someone said. There's evidence that they obviously cheated. Like cuz like what they should like what they did punish them with was saying, "Hey, you did cheat. You made this mistake. Here's a slap on the wrist. Don't do it again." Right? Like that's kind of the way it is. And again, do I think there should have been more punishment? Probably, especially when you look at teams like I think it was like I think someone posted like one of these teams like got vacated 2 wins because their tutored their players too many times, right? And then you have a high state with the tattoos, and it's like so you look at the former cases, and it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, look, do they deserve to get the national championship ripped away and multiple wins? Like, okay, that can be just debated, but I think it's hard for me to look at this, and maybe you can agree or not, is that you like that's all? Like I know the brand thing, I know you like there's money into it, but it's like what precedent are you setting? Because now you're setting to teams like, look, we can do this stuff and get away with it. Because basically now what they can do, what they did do is they fired everyone because the NCAA takes so long, and I heard multiple people say this, because they took 2 or 3 years they could fire everyone that was associated with it or get rid of them. And then now there's no one associated with that situation, which then allows. So again, I think that's why a lot of people are like, there needs to be a different process. But again, my opinion has always been, look, I now know for a fact they cheated, and that's all that matters, right? Like they cheated to get where they were. Now, I'm not saying there's obviously other factors, right? They still had to play the games, they still had to do these things, but at the end of the day, like especially because all the Michigan fans saying they didn't cheat, like there's now a fact that they did. My issues have been how are you punishing, like you're not really punishing them, you're just saying like, hey, don't do it again, don't be a bad kid, right? Like it's basically what you're telling them. So again, that's my opinion. Again, like there, I was kind of always doubting with my dad. Like dad and I debated a little bit. And I think dad, I know the people that dad follows, like they had really good sources. Like that's this is the way it was tending to go. I just think that I think there was a my personal opinion is there was just a switch near the end where they were just like, you know what, maybe we don't do it this way. And it's kind of disappointing because I think now you've set a precedent to other teams, and now you're gonna have other fan bases saying, well, what about this and what about that? And I think that's where it's gonna be kind of cause more chaos. But that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I thought Josh Pate had a pretty good take on it, saying that there's no reason for Michigan to pretend that they're Boy Scouts and all this. There definitely was something, but again, it was like one of those gray areas in the rules where it's like Connor Stallings was looking at this and there's no way that they'll be able to prove that we did any of this. And then they went ahead and I guess exploited whatever rule or any gray area
Hmm.
there might have been. Just very hard to prove it. But you also don't have to act like nothing, like you didn't
Yeah,
do
that's
anything.
that's my biggest
And then
issue.
if you would have gone the route of vacating wins, it's like I saw those games. I know who won them all. Like vacating wins in general is, I think, a stupid punishment. I saw USC and Reggie Bush win all the games that they did. I saw Joe Paterno win all the games that he did over in Penn State. Like you can't take those away. They might not be on the book, but I saw them with my own eyes.
No,
Like prove you can't prove it
no.
wrong to me.
Again, I that's where I'm at. But I think there just need to be something more now. And so, but that's my take. Again, people can debate me. You can debate me all you want. I don't really care. Look, Michigan cheated, and that's all I need to know. So, that's enough for me. Like that's enough for me to look at my Michigan friends. Look, yeah, you beat us, but you also cheated. So, again, I'm one that's not going to like hold that as like they should have lost all their wins because there's Ohio State fans out there, and Josh knows this. There's Ohio State fans that said they should have been vacated for the last 3 years. I'm not one of
Hmm.
those. I try to look at it from a very bipartisan era of like, okay, yeah, they screwed up, and maybe they should have got more. But look, it's all going to be decided in November. I think this is like the one last thing that's hanging over because I always said that if Ryan Day can beat Michigan this year, that's the last thing that's been hanging over his head. Everything else he's accomplished. He's done everything he can to get to where he needs to be. If he completes this, I think that truly cements him as like one, he can breathe, and two, he can actually say like I am one of the best coaches to ever to be at Ohio State. I think that what Ohio State fans are feeling the frustration. Let's let that play out in the field in November and see what happens because I think Bryce Underwood's in for a rude awakening if he's starting against Ohio State during that November game. I think he's going to be in a rude awakening, and I think I think the reason I say that is because I don't think he's seen speed at the linebacker position that's like DBs where he's from. So that's the fun fact. But anyway, that's my take.
Yeah. I guess to finish the show, just a couple thoughts on some Ohio State news that came out, and we're not really shocked by it. Julian Sain comes out of
Yeah.
camp. Ryan Day finally announces
Yep.
he's the starting quarterback.
Which, let's be
It's
honest, it's been that way all summer. He
it's
just
been that
waited
way
that
all
way.
summer. We knew that Julian Sain was going to start. This is what Ryan Day does. He wants the guy to earn the job. We knew that Justin Fields was going to be the starter, and he waited like all of camp to announce that. We had a feeling that CJ Stroud would be announced as a starter. We had a feeling, like really the only time that it really never was announced was Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. They both played in that week 1 game, and funny little note right there, Devin Brown did not win the starting job at Cal. So
Yes, which I think is
it's
hilarious.
even crazier now, I think, that Ryan Day won 11 games with a quarterback room of Kyle McCord, Devin Brown, and Lincoln Kienholz that season.
That shows you just how good of a coach I think he
Yeah.
is the thing.
But Julian saying week 1, Ben, against Texas, that's
Yeah.
who it's going to be.
No freshman quarterback for their first career start has ever beaten a number one team. Their 0-18 career record.
Is it freshman or first year starter? Because Julian's technically a sophomore, ain't he?
So I think it's first year starter. So first ever career start against the number one team. They're 0-18. And
Yeah.
it's not even been close. Um, yeah. We'll talk about that when that game comes. That's the
That'll be
spoil.
that'll be a
That's
bigger
your
discussion
yeah.
next week. Yeah,
Yeah,
when we
true.
preview the big games
Yeah.
week 1, because we'll have Ohio State, Texas, we'll have LSU, Clemson,
Absolutely.
we'll have Notre Dame, Miami. We'll have a lot to talk about, but we'll save it
Absolutely.
for all for next week.
Of course. That's what we got to do. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. If you love watching on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you love listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave it there. And also in the comments today, I want you to leave one comment. And that comment is tell us, did Michigan get enough? Did they get punished enough? Yes or no? It's all you got to answer. Debates. I'm sure my dad will write a whole paragraph and everything downstairs. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, hope you guys having a great weekend. Hope you guys have a great week. And until next time, we'll see ya.